This is the Nations Conspire channel. Welcome to today's show. Hawaii has imposed the nation's first climate change tax for tourists, and it's expected to generate $100 million annually. But nobody cares how much money they generate annually because this is the beginning of the carbon tax and the carbon footprint. They are normalizing this, and they are not stopping in their initiative to bring about a carbon tax. And if there's no fight back and there's no pushback from the civilians, they will move forward. And this is about more than making money. This is about controlling behaviors. Remember when Larry Fink would openly talk about behavioral control?
You now make a point of that's an investment criteria for you.
Well, behaviors are going to have to change, and this is one thing we're asking companies. You have to force behaviors, and at BlackRock we are forcing behaviors. 54% of the incoming class are women. We added 4 more points in terms of diverse employment this year, and what we're doing internally is if you don't achieve these levels of impact, your compensation could be impacted. Okay,
we're doing the same thing.
And so it's just you have to force behaviors, and if you don't force behaviors, whether it's gender or race or just any way you want to say the composition of your team, you're going to be impacted, and that's not recruiting, it is development, as Ken said. And ultimately, it's still going to take time, but I am just as much shocked as Ken is that we have not seen more opportunities. And we're going to have to force change. We're going to have to force change.
That's what these people care about more than anything. Money is secondary. They print money. They care about molding you and molding your behavior. So you're a perfect citizen, which means a compliant citizen, which is not a good thing. Because a perfect citizen to them is somebody who is willing to live as a slave for them. That's what it's about. And this is just the beginning. A couple of weeks ago, I talked about the shipping industry's new carbon tax is a huge deal. But of course, to brainwashed climate enthusiasts who don't understand weather modification and geoengineering, they think more needs to be done because they think carbon emissions is actually a real thing that's a real problem. And they don't realize the carbon they're trying to reduce is us. And I talked about a carbon passport. They've been talking about it for a couple of years now, a new carbon passport, which would restrict how you travel. That to a T is behavioral control, making you alter how you want to live, where you want to go, making you live the way that they tell you to live, which is within their parameters, like a prisoner, right? So carbon passports are the future. I even talked about how Oxfordshire Council back in 2023 was talking about doing a trial climate lockdown because, again, a lot of the things that happened during COVID, that's what the world is going to look like when they start implementing climate laws. You're going to have restrictions on how often you could leave your home. You're going to be expected to wear masks. That was a test run for eventually what the carbon footprint is going to look like. So Hawaii has what they're calling a green fee tourist tax. Take a look at this.
After 2 years of debate and revision, Governor Green today signed a first of its kind in the nation climate bill into law. It could reshape how Hawaii tackles its growing environmental challenges. Jill Kuramoto has more.
After years of political back and forth, the pen finally hit the paper.
I hope that the world is watching because having something that is a balance between industry and environment is going to be the way to go forward to protect your people.
Senate Bill 1396, now Act 96, creates what's being called a climate impact fee, also known as the green fee. The 0.75% increase to the state's transient accommodation tax hikes the TAT to 11% for tourism-related activities, including hotels and cruise ships. To break that down, for every $400 spent, $3 will go towards natural resource protection. The bill is projected to raise an estimated $100 million a year to address what the state says is about $500 million in critical funding needed to protect Hawaii's natural resources.
The visitor industry will struggle if we do not take action now.
Unlike other programs, the new funds won't go into a dedicated special fund. Instead, the legislature will reevaluate priorities each year to decide where the money should go based on the greatest environmental need. The areas of priority: environmental stewardship, hazard mitigation, and sustainable tourism. The Grassroots Institute of Hawaii, a longtime opponent of the bill, says it could end up hurting more than it helps.
There's nothing like a Hawaii vacation. And that is 100% true. But that doesn't mean that it won't affect visitor spending and the attractiveness of Hawaii as a destination.
They argue the fee won't just fall on tourists. It'll also impact local residents and small businesses.
We travel inter-island for work, to see family, to see friends. So it is a tax on locals, and you cannot get away from that.
Act 96 takes effect January 1st. Jill Kuramoto, KHON2 News, working for Hawaii.
So Hawaii is just the first of many who will adopt a tourist tax. And eventually, it's no longer a tourist tax. This will limit people from traveling. Then you'll be told, well, as a tourist, you get X amount of credits to travel to X amount of places, so you can only travel once a year. And then, of course, it turns into an everyday tax on individuals. And, of course, it's called the green fee in honor of the governor of Hawaii. And, of course, the governor is most notorious, not just for, his nose and his love of bagels, but his affiliation with the World Economic Forum, and how Hawaii had planned to be the first U.S. state to be run entirely on clean energy. And of course, for what? Well, the incompetence, the sabotage that occurred in Maui. When those fires occurred, which we all know were set on purpose, they had nothing to do with the climate. And even they couldn't peddle any more propaganda about how climate change was responsible for it, at least at the time. But you'll hear right now Governor Green talk about how they have to do this because of climate change. But they stopped peddling carbon, climate, all those types of things around the Maui wildfires because so many people were talking about directed energy weapons and smart meters on the homes there that he couldn't discuss anymore. But here he is explaining to you how this tax will work, how you'll be taxed $3 for every $400 you spend when you're in Hawaii at night at a hotel. And of course, people might say that doesn't sound like much, but think about how much that actually does add up. It adds up. It's just draining money out of your bank. It's a slow bleed, but it's really becoming a fast bleed that we're seeing with people and how much money they're actually spending, where they don't realize, well, okay, milk's double the price. What's the big deal? Well, then you get to the cashier and you see how much money you're spending at the grocery. Every single product, we're seeing more and more money going out of our pockets and lining the pockets of the ultra rich. They're killing off the middle class. And this is another way to do so, even though people will say, well, it's just $3. Well, it's a great idea for the economy. They don't even realize what they're talking about because climate change is a man-made myth and it's about weather modification. But here they are talking about on News Nation.
People love Hawaii. Conservatives love Hawaii. Liberals love Hawaii. Moderates love Hawaii. Everyone tells me they had their honeymoon here or they, got married here. Everyone loves Hawaii. In order to protect and maintain Hawaii in paradise, we have to have dedicated resources. So like you said, we increased the tax from 10.25% to 0.75%. Just for perspective, that means people pay $3 extra for every $400 night they have at a hotel. Okay. What this does is it helps us to keep the beaches maintained, to make sure where there's massive erosion that we secure those areas so we don't lose paradise. We had the wildfire on August 8th, 2023, which all of you saw, and thank you, America, for supporting us in our recovery. We have to make sure we have fire breaks. That's what these dollars will be going to, those kind of things. The rest of the world is going to awaken to this reality, whether they like taxes or not, whether they acknowledge climate change or not. There are these storms, there are these threats. We're seeing them all over the place. And there's just no way to ever expect legislatures to come out of their base budget and fund this kind of protection. So we came up with the green fee or the climate fee. They call it a green fee to tease me a little because my last name is Green. But the truth is, it is a green fee for the environment.
So, of course, he's talking about, well, you can't deny any of this weather stuff. Well, nobody's denying. No one's saying that it's CGI'd when we see these tornadoes popping up. But what we are saying is that it's obviously weather control and weather modification. And, of course, what a coincidence that the government themselves at the Air Force released a document that said weather is a force multiplier, owning the weather in 2025. And yeah, it is indeed 2025. So they're going to implement this carbon tax on tourists. They're going to normalize this. They're going to normalize this with the shipping industry. Next thing is going to be, they're going to normalize this with airfare. You're going to get taxed on your airfare even more. And then it comes down to an individual level. So once you get used to carbon tax, right? You go to the restaurant, you get steak, you pay extra, and they'll say it right on there, carbon tax. They beat it into you without any pushback. It becomes the new normal. That's how they do it. Time goes by, goes by, people stop getting frustrated, they just get used to it, just like every other tax that we've been given. And then it's all in everybody's mind. Everybody knows about a carbon tax. Oh, carbon tax to fly, carbon tax to drive, carbon tax to go on a cruise, and then it turns into the carbon tax on you. And they've talked about it at the World Economic Forum, how they're going to track a commodity via carbon footprint. This is what it's all about.
We're developing, through technology, an ability for consumers to measure their own carbon footprint. What does that mean? That's where are they traveling? How are they traveling? What are they eating? What are they consuming on the platform? So, individual carbon footprint tracker. Stay tuned. We don't have it operational yet, but this is something that we're working on.
You know you should probably reduce it, but what exactly is your carbon footprint? The carbon footprint refers to the total amount of greenhouse gases released into the Earth's atmosphere as a result of the activities of an individual or an organisation. Remember, greenhouse gases trap heat inside the atmosphere, and that's overheating the planet. So if you want to work out your own carbon footprint, you need to know the amount of greenhouse gases, like carbon dioxide, you're responsible for creating. It's a difficult thing to measure precisely, and there are different definitions about how best to calculate it. But roughly speaking, there's the direct impact of using energy when we travel or to power our homes. And there's the indirect impact of the energy that's used to create all the things we use or consume. In the developed world in particular, transport is a big part of your carbon footprint. Cutting down on the use of petrol or diesel cars and taking fewer flights is one of the most effective ways of reducing it. The place you live also contributes to your personal footprint. It's important to make sure your home is heated or cooled efficiently and is well insulated. The more you can use sustainable energy like solar or wind power, the more you cut your emissions. The stuff you use at home also adds to the problem. All that plastic, metal and cardboard takes a lot of energy to produce and dispose of. So recycling can help reducing your carbon footprint, but not as much as how you travel or heat and cool your home. Then there's your diet. Above all, red meat makes your carbon footprint bigger because cows produce so much methane, another greenhouse gas, and huge numbers of trees are cut down to create pastures on which cattle can graze. In the developing world, polluting stoves are a real problem too, so it's important to try to replace them with more efficient methods of cooking. But overall, people in poorer countries produce far smaller amounts of greenhouse gases than people in richer countries do. So, if you look at just what a country produces, the average amount of carbon dioxide emissions per person in the United States is about 16.1 tonnes per year. In China, it's 7.1 tonnes, and in the UK, it's about 5.5 tonnes. But in the Democratic Republic of Congo, it's only 0.03 tonnes, while in Qatar, which has a really small population but produces so much oil and gas, it's 38.6 tonnes. Now, that's just production. It doesn't take account of all the other things we've talked about, how much you consume. But obviously, the more money you have, the more you tend to consume. So if people in richer countries really want to reduce their carbon footprint, they need to make huge changes in their lifestyles. It can be done, and new technologies to make things greener are coming on stream all the time. But it is a reminder that the declared aim in many countries of going carbon neutral by the middle of this century means a revolution in the way we live.
And again, it's no surprise that the carbon footprint and the carbon tax is supported by both the left and the right, because Elon Musk, who is supposed to be, a hero to the MAGA crowd, who is pushing electric vehicles and universal basic income, also is pushing for a carbon tax, right? If we're going to tax anything, we should prioritize taxing the potentially bad over the potentially good. And we do, as we do with alcohol and cigarettes, over vegetables and fruits. And he continues about it. He says it's the best thing to do. It's the thing to do for humanity to move forward. He loves the carbon tax. There's so many quotes with him out there supporting the carbon tax. And of course, we know who really loves the carbon tax the most. It's the unelected globalists at the World Economic Forum who hate us so bad that not only do they want to tax you on carbon, they also want to remove carbon from the atmosphere, which I've talked about many times. They have all of these carbon removal plants that they're taking the carbon, and nobody's thinking. They're taking the carbon out of the atmosphere, and people are going, oh, great, it'll reduce emissions, right? And they're actually taking it and putting it underground. Meanwhile, nobody's going, hey, do these people actually live under? Oh, they do live underground. They're farming underground. They're bringing it all underground, and they're going to kill us all off. And if you don't know what this means, it means we remove carbon from the atmosphere. Guess what happens to all of you? You suffocate, right? These are the types of things they put out there with their fancy background music right in front of everybody, and nobody out there blinks.
Earth Day is Monday, and this morning, we're looking at potential solutions to the climate crisis. New government data out this month shows that planet-warming greenhouse gas emissions continue to climb. The Earth's atmosphere now contains more carbon dioxide than it has at any point in at least 4.3 million years. Senior national and environmental correspondent Ben Tracy recently met up with former Microsoft CEO Bill Gates, who's helping fund innovative climate technologies. Ben with us, a rare visit in studio. Good morning, Ben.
Good morning, guys. To avoid the worst impacts of climate change, scientists say we need to bring those planet-warming emissions down to zero and do it by the middle of this century. Now, Bill Gates doesn't think that's going to happen by all of us suddenly giving up airplane flights or our cars or becoming vegetarians. He thinks we need to leverage technology and innovation to rapidly lower emissions.
One of those big plants will be built here on the largest cattle ranch in Texas. It will be a direct air capture facility, which sucks in planet-warming carbon dioxide and buries it underground.
This term, direct air capture, means that they're just pulling it out of the air.
This facility in Iceland is currently the world's largest operating plant, removing about 4,000 tons a year, not even a drop in the CO2 bucket. But a new one being built in West Texas called Stratos is expected to remove 500,000 tons per year.
This is really the hub of CO2 enhanced oil recovery.
And the one here on the ranch could eventually capture 1 million tons. They are being developed by oil and gas giant Occidental, which plans to build 100 of them with the help of federal tax credits.
Carbon capture won't solve the entire problem. It's part of our arsenal of tools.
Gates says the oil and gas industry can be part of the solution if they use their expertise to reduce emissions. He personally pays carbon capture companies $9 million a year to offset his own pollution, a perk of being one of the richest people on the planet.
I have a plane, I have a huge carbon footprint.
He knows most people can't afford to do that, which is why he believes technology and American innovation is the key to combating the climate crisis.
Some of these things will not succeed, and that's why it's great to have multiple technologies that are showing promise.
One thing does not solve the problem here, because I was saying, what do you do with that carbon underneath? So then you're going to produce more oil, but that's part of the problem here.
Yeah, so some of the technology will be used to sequester carbon forever. It goes into rock formations in the ground. It can never heat the planet again. That's good. If you're going to use it to pump more oil, that's very questionable because you're not really solving the problem because those emissions will get burned out of an airplane or a tailpipe at some point.
It's a combination of things. It's relying on the technology to adapt to it, which I think we sometimes underestimate how we can fix it with new technology, but also reducing emissions now.
Yeah, none of these things are silver bullets. We need a lot of different things. Al Gore once said to us, it's silver buckshot. It's not a silver. So it's going to take a lot of different technologies to figure out.
So, of course, we all know the process known as photosynthesis would take care of any type of carbon issue, but that's not enough for them. Trees, that's too easy of a resolution. I mean, trees don't kill people off, but sucking carbon out of the atmosphere and putting it underground so that we could farm underground and that we could survive underground for a long period of time. Because again, there ain't carbon underground unless they're sucking it down there and putting it down there. And that's exactly what they're doing. And it's right in front of our faces. It's all so incredible, isn't it? So Hawaii, again, remember when, this is the same place where your governor and all of the people of Maui, the, government officials there, while the fire happened, just like all the other drills that they run, they happen to be on another island having a meeting about the same exact thing. What would happen if there's a fire in Maui? Oh, it's happening right now. We're at the meeting. Wow. What a coincidence, right? And then, of course, after the fact, they want you to look at them as heroes, as Governor Green was standing in front of these FEMA homes that they made for all of the people after they burned their homes to the ground. Aren't they wonderful people? We'll burn your home to the ground, then we'll build you a new home. It'll look just like your neighbor's home and everybody else. Oh, it looks like a concentration camp. Oh, because it is, right? If you see the pictures of the FEMA camps that they've built in Maui, I've covered it multiple times. I mean, does that not look like a prison to you? Does this not look like what you would consider a concentration camp? And the people are supposed to smile and just be happy that they have a home now. The government gave us and provided for us. They gave us a little house to live in after our house burned. But what if they knew that their government were the ones responsible for the arson that was committed? You think they'd be smiling and happy about their green, their neon blue, their red little cubicles that the government has shoved them in like sardines? It's incredible, isn't it? So how convenient that Governor Green, who said, he's openly talking about how Hawaii was going to be the first U.S. green energy state. These are all the types of initiatives that are going to be taken as they move forward. Obviously, a tourist tax is just the beginning. It goes from tourist tax to, it's tourist tax, you have shipping tax, you're going to have airline tax, and then it's going to be about taxing you on your behavior, what decisions you make. And you're going to go, well, I guess I can't do that anymore because that's going to affect my carbon tax. And that's what they wanted all along, to control your behavior. And they're doing it through this climate hoax. They're manipulating people into altering how they live their lives. Don't eat meat, it's bad for the environment. Oh, but in the meantime, not having meat in your body is actually bad for you, despite what some people out there actually might believe or say. Oh, and driving a car to see your grandma on her deathbed is a bad thing too. You can FaceTime with her, right? Like we told you to do during COVID, because your carbon footprint's too low. You're not allowed to leave your home. They're going to alter every decision we make because they're going to give you a choice. And each choice you make is going to have consequences. And eventually, you won't be allowed to do the things you want to do unless you limit or change the other things that you do in your life. So if you love to do one specific thing, if you love to go out hiking every single day for an hour, then you're going to have to spend the rest of your day altering what you eat and how often you flush the toilet and how often you turn on the lights in your home. So you have to just say, okay, well, I'll do anything. I don't want to have 1 hour of recess a week. I want to go hiking every day. I go every morning. They'll go, okay, but here's your bill. Here's your tax on it. So the rest of the day, this is how much you could spend. And turning the lights on is 100 points, right? Leaving it on for another hour is 500 points. So don't keep your lights on for more than an hour. Oh, you're running your electric stove. Well, that's a 5,000 point. Oh, and the next thing you know, wait, I can't eat today? No, you can't. Do you have like something that you don't, just a candy bar or something? Oh, wait, you can't have that either because we're controlling everything that you buy and have in your home. So at this point, you might as well just, wave a white flag. Because you're better off living in a prison cell. Because this one's even worse than living in a prison cell. Because this is going to make people change who they are. They're going to have to alter everything about themselves, everything that they like to do. They're not going to be able to do anymore. They're going to be forced into eating things that they don't want to eat. They're going to conform and mold humanity into what they believe is a perfect human species, one that is subservient to them. That's what the climate hoax is all about. They like to get you with the right-wing media saying, they're just environmental lunatics and all that stuff. No. They're legitimate lunatics. These people are control freak psychopaths. They're narcissists to a level that none of us even have ever experienced with in our lives. If everybody knows a narcissist, these people are beyond that. They're beyond what we've heard about Dahmer and Bundy. They're beyond all of that. They are so psychopathic that having all the money that they have and all the control they have already is not enough. They want to control and morph you and turn the entire planet into a prison. And that's what they're doing through the climate tax. So here we go with Hawaii being the first state. And as you heard Governor Green tell us, well, they'll be the first, but many will follow. Of course they'll follow because there's no pushback from any of the people. And the states are obviously going to do what they're told to do, whether they're Democrat or Republican. And they're going to continue to tax and tax and tax. And then when the carbon footprint tax is implemented, you'll realize that this entire thing was to alter the way that you live. I thank everybody for being here. I hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always.